I was just kind of moping around the alleys and the streets downtown Des Moines, just kind of felt like a ghost. I had resigned myself to being lit, like in the streets, sleeping in alleyways, using concrete as a pillow, waking up, I peed myself in the morning and not care, like being at that point. And I was okay with dying. Like I remember thinking, I was like, I'd just be fine to not wake up. Like I just wanted to sleep and just not wake up. My foundations are Catholic school, middle class, blue collar. I had a tree house, a dog in the backyard, brother and sister. Growing up, my father was a workaholic, alcoholic, and my mother was a dreamer. She always imagined that she was gonna be a star. They both liked to have a good time when they met each other. I had a dinosaur toy, I think it was a Stegosaurus. He ran over it one day. He said he was still pretty drunk from the day before, and he just felt horrible. He felt inept as a human and as a father, and decided that was gonna be the day, that he got sober. I started going to AA meetings with my father. We started going to church more often. It changed the dynamic of the family. I was 8 years old, going to Catholic school. That kind of makes you an oddball when your parents get divorced. And on top of that, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and I was starting to ask questions about, the reality of what happened with the divorce. And her boyfriend at the time started feeling very uncomfortable with me being around. My mother had a friend who was a fortune teller, a soothsayer of sorts, and she had a crystal ball and everything, and stories were being made up. I got called out for an appointment. I thought it was a therapy appointment. It ended up being, it was the appointment that my mom had scheduled for me to be assessed for child in need of assistance for Iowa. I went to a psych ward in Dubuque, and from there, I went to another psych ward in Cedar Rapids. And I think I held on to this hope that, this is just gonna be part-time. I'm just moving around until my mom figures out what's going on. Until I was placed in my first long-term placement in Four Oaks and Cedar Rapids. The kids that I was around had real diagnosable mental health issues. I remember a lot of kids with seizures, epilepsy, schizophrenia. It just felt so cold sometimes because we're all just kids and with like serious pain and all that. And just to think that, I didn't really go through that, but also feeling like I did something horrible. I went to 3 other group homes after that one. By the time it came for me to age out, it was a court date that I had to determine where I was gonna go. I stated my case. I stated, I've been gone away from my family for 4 years. My brother and sister were getting older, so I wanted to be at home with them and be a brother and feel what that was like again. And the judge understood and made the judgment for me to go home. And I was standing out in the lobby with my lawyer and my social worker, and my mother stormed out of the courtroom and looked at me, anger in her eyes, and Matthew Robert Kaloji, that's the most selfish thing you've ever done, and left the courtroom. So.
What was the most selfish thing?
Me wanting to go home. But my father decided he wanted to take me, and that was scary. He lived in South Carolina. He picked me up. He told me, I have no idea how to be a father, but I will give you a crash course in living. So I'm trying to fit in, trying to figure out my new place. I started getting my bearings in school, kind of having my own identity. People knew who I was. I was a student council member. I did everything I could to enjoy this life that I thought I was missing out on. I was starting to skip classes and hang out with kids that I never hung out with before. I started doing what the cool kids did and drinking beer at lunch. And my dad kind of knew what was going on. My dad is not very good at expressing any emotion at all, so he came to my room and rolled up his sleeves and asked if I wanted to go out and fight him. And I just shook my head and closed my door. And the next morning, I called my best friend at the time, and we packed my stuff up, and I moved out the next day. Everyone that I met at that time was all drinking buddies. Just a lot of bad decisions on my part. In and out of jail. I couch surfed a lot. I got my felony for tearing up a hotel room. And we had a party that was under my name, so we destroyed everything. The monetary damage, I guess, was over $10,000. And I was now fitting in to the statistical model of moving from foster system to the criminal system of Iowa. I had this view of myself that now I'm a criminal. So I was already felt like I didn't really fit in. And now I was amongst criminals, which I also didn't identify with. I was 24 years old. I had no business couch surfing and drinking. One of the people I was hanging out with at the time introduced me to his bass playing older sister, Natalie, who was in a band in college. And for me, I was like, oh, this is it. She saw me for who I was. I could have these intellectual conversations with her. The first 4 years of our relationship were awesome. We loved taking road trips. We'd go to concerts, vacations. And I started going to college. The last 4 years of our relationship were very rough. We were very disconnected. We had turned into roommates at best. She asked me if I was happy, and I said no. She helped me pack my stuff. I got my own place, and I lost my mind. I was trying to go to college, finish college. My drinking and my procrastination put my assignments weeks behind deadlines. If it wouldn't have been for my mother, I would not have finished my last couple credits of college. With her help, I was able to graduate with my degree in psychology, with the ambition, the intent to use it to help kids that are transitioning from group homes. However, I was very hard on myself, the reality of decisions that I made in my life, my DUIs, my felony at an early age, and just my overall sense of self-worth. And I didn't know where to go. You know, when I was a student, I had the identity that I could attach to of being a student, and didn't really put much thought or effort into what the next phase was going to be. And I was couch surfing, once again, very homeless. And I met a young man. He just got a new camp with his girlfriend. He just got a dog. And he invited me to his camp. And it was a Sunday morning. It was the first night of me being at the camp. And there were some folks walking down the train tracks asking if we were hungry, if we wanted food, if we needed things. And I was just taken aback. I was like, what is this? And they told us they were from Joppa. And just that sense of like seeing people actually show their values in the world was a big, it speaks volumes to me without even having to say anything, It gave me inspiration, it gave me hope. It kind of fed that part of me that needed to know that there are people who care. And I don't have to resign to live my life in the woods. That's a choice. And I was on that precipice. I was on that curve where it was, no man's land, and I decided no, and that hope kind of helped pull me through. I got to a point where I was at the end of myself. I didn't want to live like that anymore. And at my low point, that's where I found Christ. The spiritual fabric of what it means to be coming to the end of ourself and following Christ, and to pick up our cross instead of trying to deny it. My faith has shown me now that to walk with God is an adventure. It was an investment that the volunteers that day, they made in their day, and it poured into me, and it was important for me to be part of the same organization so I can help return that investment. Being a Joppa volunteer helps me feel like I am engaging in the world the way that I want to engage in the world. We're sitting here in front of my apartment. Actually coming and volunteering helps me transition with that because I get very lonely. And sometimes on my loneliest days, especially when I first moved in here, I thought about giving it all up and just going out and camping. And so going out there, I get fulfilled. Joppa Volunteers is just a special group of people that get called to do it because it seems like there's a very shared desire to show up and to be the best Christians that we can be. My relationship today with my brother and sister is great. My brother and I probably get along better than we ever have, and we're really a cohesive family. We like to talk and laugh. Out on the streets and in the camps, Joppa spoke about like a Mecca almost. It gives hope. Just the existence of Joppa gives hope. 15 years now without missing a week. That speaks volumes to people, and they know that they're dependable, and having that constant interaction with people who care creates an environment that's perfect for change.